our extended version over here at the Mad Love Your Life show on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for your follows, for your likes, and for just being a member of the community. It's amazing. My guest today is Robin Duncan. She is a spiritual mentor, an executive producer, and host of A Course in Miracles.tv. And I know many of you are big fans of A Course in Miracles. And so she's been phenomenal. If you missed the live show, go back and listen to the recording because we got juicy. Y'all, we got way under the surface on forgiveness. We've got just, it's the most delicious bite of wisdom cake that you could probably take today. So don't miss out. Go back, listen to the video, and you're going to love it. You're going to love it. You can listen to it on the podcast platform. You can also listen to it right here on YouTube over at the Bold Brave TV channel. So without further ado, I want to jump back into some of the conversations that we've been talking about today, Robin, because it's been so good. And, one of the things that I would love for you just to also share is about some of your upbringing, because I feel like one of the things that so many people in my circle share is they are gifted in many ways. And so I believe you hold the gift of song as part of your DNA. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, as of, I guess, 3 years old, I was put up on a stage. My two brothers, my sister, and we were a country Western band. And so for 8 years, from when I was 3 till about 11, we performed pretty much every week. We rehearsed all the time. And so it was quite a big part of my childhood and really brought music into my life. And, it wasn't until my older siblings started to get married and, peel off and do other things that we stopped performing. But it was such a big part of my life and really brought all of us very close to one another.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. So they broke up the band by, having their own lives. Okay.
Right.
I see that. So I know oftentimes many of us look around and go, what happened to this band or that band? It's like, they just went on, I think, living their lives and other things took over. Life happens. That's right. And did you all actually write your own music or did you play covers? Like, what did you do?
A lot of just popular music, and we all wrote music also. So I would say
Amazing.
both, right?
That's very cool. And do you play an instrument?
I play the guitar, a little bit of piano. As a
Nice.
3-year-old, I played the bongos.
Wow, the bongos.
Yeah. So really out there, right? But it was so
Oh.
much fun.
Yeah, amazing. And we also talked about your on the live show your success as, a CFO and as someone who has, worked in with big businesses and, do you feel like you get an opportunity to apply some of that professional history these days or do you feel like, it's totally on the other end of things now?
I think everything we do, anyone does, it's just this compilation of things that we learn, things that we're good at, things that we're skilled at, and it just keeps being reinforced and combined. And yeah, I think I use all of it. I use what I learned as a child on stage so that I can actually do this and be comfortable. I learned what I did in my finance career. You can never, stop using numbers and understanding how they go together. If you run a business, it's always going to be helpful. And, everything that I've learned along the way, I think gets used in one form or another. So I hope anyone listening, whatever you're doing, know that it will be utilized. I feel like this higher part of us that helps us with things loves to utilize everything we know, everything that we are, so that we can be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember telling my algebra teacher, I was like, am I ever going to use this in my life? Is this ever going to be practical?
I used it one
Yeah.
time in my financial career. I was so excited. I told my staff, I said, oh, wait a minute, let's break out an algebra formula. We're going to figure this out. And we did. And I was like, I used it. Finally, I used
Finally.
algebra for
Yes.
something and it worked.
Yes, finally. I was going to say, I think the only time I can say I've used it is helping my friend, her son. He needed help with his math homework, so he came to me, and that was my use of algebra
Right.
and like remembering it. I
It
was like,
teaches you critical thinking. I love math. I was one of those math
Yeah.
nerds because I love math because it's certain. 2 plus 2 is 4.
Mm.
It doesn't depend on your mood or how you feel about it. I like that level of certainty about the numbers.
Ooh,
So
that's
I've
really
always
good.
carried that with me as
Yeah.
okay, at least math stays exactly where it is.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I've never thought of math in that way. Yeah. So I want to talk about finances because we talked about this a little bit on the previous show on the live show in talking about how when you might make the decision to shift from professional work into spiritual work, that for some people from going from a paycheck to this sort of unknown, like, can I do this, will I do this, but it's what I feel called to do in my spirit to do, that sometimes some scarcity around money can show up. And one thing that you shared was around how you would not have taken in a belief around, oh, I might not make, be able to replace or make what I made. So when you say that, I'd love to revisit that because I think that is definitely on a lot of people's minds when they think about shifting over into anything, whether it's another career or into doing something they're more passionate about. They worry about, like, oh, but is that same money going to be there? If I'm used to this big corporate, salary, what does it look like if I'm not that corporate identity anymore?
Well, I think before you make that leap, anyone that's listening, the first thing is to wait until you feel peaceful about it. If you try to do it before you're peaceful, you might feel like a nervous wreck. So, and that's not helpful. So go ahead and give yourself time to either prepare or do the things that you need to do to feel like you're ready to take that step. Some people, like you said before, they're leapers and they leap right away and kind of clean up the pieces later. And sometimes that's just their style. But if someone is concerned about it, I know many people that do their corporate work during the day and they do their spiritual work at night. But I love the integration. I like bringing it all together. So if somebody is looking to make that leap, I think it's really important to wait until it feels reasonably peaceful and then refuse to decide against yourself. That when you finally get the go ahead that you're going to do this, it feels like the right time. You need to remind yourself to trust your decision. Try to not go back on yourself and say, oh, I did that too soon, or I shouldn't have done this, or now what will I do, or now I don't have a paycheck. Just try to leave your mind open to it working. And if anything, just trust the decision you made. You made it for a reason. It came at the right time,
Mm-hmm.
even if you have to do a little self talk. I am willing to trust my decision. I'm willing to let this work out beautifully.
Yeah.
I am willing to not decide against myself. And I think that would help so much. And that's what allows those great opportunities to show up. When you make those transitions in life, if you're not white knuckling all the way through it, things happen so quickly. Doors blow open, and all of a sudden you're involved in things you didn't know you would be involved in.
Yeah.
But if you start to hold on tight because you don't understand where you're going, that's going to slow things down a little bit because our higher consciousness never wants to freak us out. It doesn't want us to be afraid. It's almost like if you were helping a child do something and they were afraid, maybe try swimming for the first time. I don't personally like when somebody lobs you into the pool. I would rather the child sit down, get familiar, dangle their legs, and maybe watch somebody other child do it, and just get to that place of comfort. I think healing and growth and transitions, they don't need to be messy, they don't need to be hard, they can be so joyful. But give yourself time, trust yourself. If you're not sure, pray about it, ask about it, see what gentle nudges come your way, and it's going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. When it comes to things like relationships, I know that you have a very funny story around the names and like I believe it's your husband now, as well as your prior, were both named Terry, which is really funny. You're right. God
Right,
kept it simple for you. And then the same for him, right? Previous wife was Robin, and you are Robin as well, which
right.
is funny. So how does that work? Like, if you're talking about your ex, like, are they like Terry number one?
I am referred to as California Robin
Oh,
by the
California
other side of
Robin.
the family because there's Ohio Robin and California Robin.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
the other Terry, it just doesn't come up that much. I think,
Mm,
my sons live here. So if we're talking about their dad, I just say dad or your dad. And, so it's easy that way. But
that's
it
funny.
is pretty funny. When he first introduced himself to me and he said, "Oh, my name's Terry." And I said, "Really?" I go, "That was my former husband's name." And he said, "What's your name?" And my name's Robin. And he said, "Well, that was my wife's name." For a minute I thought, "Oh, this guy, he's just coming on," right? It's
But
true.
it
And
was
in fact, she
true.
and I have become really good friends. So
Oh,
it's really
fun. That is fun. I love that. Well, tell me, what is what is one of the secrets that you would give us? Like what's something that you know now that you wish you had known about relationships before you are in the one you are in now?
Oh my goodness. I think when you're in relationship and you're with someone that really sees the best in you, right from the beginning, you can
Mhm.
feel that, that,
Mm,
and it's mutual. When you're seeing the best in one another, there's always that person that's around you and at your side that can see that you can do it and that you're going to be great and you're going to, everything will move forward smoothly, peacefully. Like my husband right now, he's driving around with our two Bernese mountain dogs because he didn't want them to interrupt this process, and they're wonderful, but they would be an interruption, and they're just adorable. But I mean, what a beautiful thing. And he just offered to do that. When you're in a
mm,
relationship, I think that when I was younger, it was more out of completing yourself. I wasn't that
mm,
outgoing when I was younger. And so I
mm.
ended up being with a person that was very outgoing and very dynamic. And you end up attracting to your opposite. And as you get a little older and more evolved within yourself, you start to draw to another person that is much more like you. So you have more like interests, more like values. And I would say when people come together, have a really nice discussion, several times about what interests you and what you love and what you like. And it doesn't have to all be the same, but it sure would be nice that it's in alignment.
Yeah.
Because if somebody really wants to go east and somebody wants to go west, it'll always feel like it's conflicted and like somebody's doing the wrong thing or somebody's failing someone.
Right.
Somebody might be a smoker and another person isn't, and then there's that constant temptation to judge. So I would say, as people are coming into relationship, always engage your higher consciousness and even ask within yourself, is this the right person? Is this a
Yeah.
good choice for me? And watch for those signs and cues. But definitely talk about the things that are important to you and try to share that and get them to share that. And the more we are in alignment, we don't need to compromise. It's not about loss or trying to give up something. It's walking with people in this life that are in alignment with who you are and what you love. And you find that it is the most peaceful, happy relationship you could imagine.
Yes, yes, and yes, and yes. I know that it's interesting to come out of a really long, really, I came out of an 18-year relationship where we're also still kind to each other and we're still friends. And one of the reasons I actually have so many dogs right now is because I am dog sitting while he's in Hawaii on vacation. So it's a funny thing to be like, oh, there's a support system in place, and it's like, oh, and I also have my show. We'll see how they do.
They're doing good.
So yeah, so there are brief interruption once in a while, and I'm like, you know what? I love dogs. I'm just going to roll with it. But I love that thoughtfulness that your partner shows up to you with, because I think that part is also so important. And as I've been dating again, it's been really fascinating to sit with each one and just say, huh, could I see myself doing life with this person, and in this present moment, does this feel good? Like, does this feel like, oh, this is, if this was life, this would feel really nice, or would this feel really awkward, or does this not feel safe? Like, to be able to ask yourself those questions and figure out that kind of first level, like, visceral response of what does my body say to me, when I'm around this person and with this person. And I know that as I go through this next phase of life, and looking at partnership again, it's one of the big questions is always, hey, does this person add to the peace in my life versus take away from it? Because it's such a important piece for me of having, peace is a high value and having peace in that
Peace is a
relationship.
high value.
Oh, high value.
If someone is looking at, going into a relationship, I think first stop is to take a inside inventory of your belief system around that. Because
Yeah.
if you believe that people take your time, or they are a drain on your finances, or they don't let you be yourself, or maybe you've had some bad experiences, and you're defending against that happening again. We learn in A Course in Miracles that we create what we defend against. So if you're going into that new relationship and you're carrying those old thoughts and beliefs with you, you're about 100% likely to recreate that same scenario again. So I always encourage people to clear those things away with
Mm.
some form of qualified practitioner or life coach that can help you to really neutralize those old thoughts and beliefs and those old painful experiences,
Yeah.
because you're going to be so busy trying to not have that happen again. You're going to walk right into it again. And you'll think,
Yes.
how did I do that?
Right.
But we are magnetic, we are attractive, we attract what we're thinking about. And
Yeah.
if you're thinking more about what you don't want, guess what you get? A double scoop of
Right.
what you don't want.
Right.
And it sure won't look like it at the beginning, and then there you are. But that
Yes.
it doesn't have to be that way.
That's
So
right. That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, so good. So good. So yeah, it's been a fun journey and I'm enjoying the ride, not worrying too much about the destination. So that's been the mantra here as of late. Well, I want to also talk about, mental health and wellness. What are some things that you've found along your journey that have really helped you stay grounded, have helped you, stay at peace in your body? Calm the noise that can show up sometimes in life.
a few things really. I would say nature is one of those. Nature is so grounding for just about everybody. I
Yeah.
think most people, unless they're just strictly not an outdoors person. But to kick your shoes off, walk in the grass, go sit next to a tree, go for a walk, simple things, walk at the beach. So if someone's feeling really worried or stressed out, that certainly helps. You'll feel so much better. Nice deep breathing to really let your life force come into your body and wake things up. And of course, asking for divine help. There's a line in A Course in Miracles that talks about not being so concerned about our preparedness, but to be certain about our higher consciousness being prepared. And I do that a lot. If I'm not feeling quite on my game or feeling good about something, I remind myself that I don't have to have it all worked out, that I can rely on higher consciousness to guide me and come through me. So I would say also sound therapy. I've created a
Mm.
lot of sound therapy tracks, and it is remarkable what they can do. There's tracks specifically to help you ground. If you're going into a tough meeting or a mediation, something where, or a big presentation, you can listen to sound therapy on your stereo in your car on the way there, and it helps a lot. There's tapping with EFT, that if somebody is feeling stressful and they need to ground and get recentered, you can do EFT. I combine it with something called the source technique, which helps you get to the root cause of the problem and then apply the EFT tapping. I also bring in spiritual principles while we're tapping, so that helps me to ground. But it's really a combination of whatever I feel I need at the time that would just get things reinforced and get me back on that track of feeling grounded.
I love that. I love that. And would you say that those same things help you in a physical sense, or are there also other things you do for yourself physically?
I think they're all physical and
Mm,
emotional, but
mm,
they give you a physical boost. They help you to feel strong and grounded, more assertive, less worried, less static going on in your mind. I think it's also good to, eat good things that don't
mm.
send you into a place of feeling jittery. Don't have a whole bunch of caffeine before you are trying to share a meaningful conversation. Just preparing yourself in a way that
Yeah.
the things that work best for you, so that you are in the best place to communicate most effectively, because it's going to be a win for everybody. When we choose something that's peaceful for us, it's going to be peaceful for everyone because we're one. We are
Yeah.
not separate. So when we choose peace, or we choose to rest, or we choose to play, or we choose to take time away from work, and it feels peaceful, it feels right, you're going to bless everyone in your family, everyone at the office, and even all of your neighbors. It's a
Right.
blessing to everyone every time we make a peaceful, happy choice for ourselves.
Yes, yes to that. Yes to peace. Yes to being the catalyst for peace for others. I love that. Talk to me about the work that you're doing in spirituality and coaching. Like, who is an ideal person who comes to you looking for help, and what are they looking for?
Probably the ideal person for me to work with is, I would say, number one, that they would benefit greatly by having a belief in God or a higher power, that there is something beyond themselves. I
Mm,
can work with people that don't have that belief, but I believe we can go much faster if that belief is in place, because it's almost like having a team working with you instead of working by yourself. So
yeah.
I can work with that either way, but I think that is my ideal client, is somebody that really wants to involve this higher, wiser place of consciousness that can help us to identify those old hidden beliefs and the things that are blocking them from moving forward in the quickest possible way. I think if somebody does study already A Course in Miracles, that allows me to use words, concepts, examples that they will so easily understand and
Mm,
relate to. If they don't already study that, that's fine. But then I have to break it down. It's almost like if I'm a concert piano teacher and you've never played piano, I can certainly teach you.
yeah.
But if you have played a little piano before, we can really get rolling quickly. So it just depends. I think everyone has a right to healing.
Mm,
And I try to not block or turn away anyone, because I feel like they're on my path for a reason.
yeah.
And sometimes they come to me and I'm not really sure why or how they got there, because it
Yeah.
may not seem like a match, but I really try to keep my mind open. And then ultimately, I do find out why. And it might be that they're just right there on the verge of a huge spiritual awakening and breakthrough. And then I'm right there to help them understand what's happening, what's going on. Don't be afraid. This is what you got to do next. And so we don't always know all the reasons why things are happening around us. So I think we have to trust what's happening and allow it to be, and then seek the wisdom about why it makes sense, because it does. It probably does make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's my
Absolutely.
ideal client. Yeah.
So good, so good. Yeah, I always believe that when the show happens, that the right people are listening at the right time, getting exactly the message and the download that they need. And so I never want to be remiss in letting that opportunity show up so that a person can go, "Oh my gosh, that's me," and they raise their hand and
I
put it
think
out
too,
there.
people that are they're really seeking a change of some kind, and they just
Mm,
feel stuck and they
mm,
don't understand why. It can just be really hard to understand sometimes. But I think that's where my specialty is I help them zero in on the why and what to do about it very quickly. So it's a lot of fun, actually, even though, I mean, we laugh a lot. I try to give them examples of things to make it funny and memorable. But if somebody is coming to me because their husband says they need to quit smoking and they really don't want to, let's say, that's tough. That's a tough
mm,
place to be. Because if you're trying to affect some kind of change for someone else, we're probably not going to move as quickly, right?
right.
Because the motivation has to come from the person. But anyone that has the desire for something to be better or to move forward and they just don't know how, I feel like that's a specialty that I can really help them with that. And everybody has that right, and there are ways to move you forward. So, for anyone listening, don't decide against yourself. The things that helped me in my life the most, I would have never expected in my life. And some of those launched me forward in ways that were shocking, startling.
Yes. Yes, same, same. So just I think that's the delight of life is getting a little shock and awe or a little surprise and delight from the universe of like, hey, I know you didn't expect to see it this way, but here it is. And oh, look at that. Yes, exactly, exactly. I was just sharing with someone that I have an Alaska trip coming up, and I really feel like I manifested that because I said this year, all the talk has been about how there's been so many solar flares and there's been all of these beautiful, even here in the US, we've been able to see the northern lights more than most years. And I was like, oh, it's a good year for it. Am I going to get to now see them actually in Alaska? Will it be, part of that experience? And so I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the future holds. And it was one of my moments of like, thanks for that surprise and delight. I didn't even know that was going to show up for me. So
That's
it was a
beautiful.
lot of
And
fun.
if you're headed off on that trip, one of the things that you can do is you can pause right now and you can just go to that place of gratitude and just thank that highest place in your mind. Thank you in advance for the most wonderful trip, that it would be beyond every conceivable idea I've ever had, that it would be so amazing and all the most wonderful people would be involved and the weather would be perfect. And, thank you in advance for aligning every single part of this journey, and that everyone would be blessed by it and it would
Mm,
be safe and happy. And, you can call ahead. That's making that reservation for
yeah.
peace. Sometimes I might be going on a trip, and 4 times now I've seen where there was a hurricane over the place that I was headed to, and I was still needing to go for various reasons. But I always question what I see, because if it's not happy, it means God hasn't been involved, right? So
Oh.
we want to get that higher consciousness involved right away. And so I bring the hurricane to God. I said, God, I bring you this hurricane. Thank you for deciding for me about the weather and how this goes and what needs to happen. And I'm willing to have the most wonderful time. I don't know how that's going to go, but you do. And will you decide for me? And
Mm,
all 4 times the hurricane was undone. There was no
yeah.
hurricane. In fact,
Oh.
one time it was New Orleans and it didn't even rain. It was supposed to be flooding and raining and
Mm,
lightning and the hurricane. And the whole 3 days I was there, it didn't even rain,
yeah.
So, but always question the illusion. That's what we call
Hmm.
it, what we're seeing with our eyes.
Yeah.
Question that, redirect, and choose again, and be willing to have a remarkable time.
Yes. Yes and yes. It's funny because one of the common little mantras in my regular prayer life is thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for all that you're doing and all that's going to be. Like it's just the anticipation of the gratitude that I already know I'm going to have for future and what's showing up in my life though. I love that.
Forget to ask, we
Yeah,
have help, we have support.
totally.
I call them the big guns.
Yep.
We have, with the power is with us and loves us, and we
Yeah.
want to call on that.
Yeah, yeah, it was really funny because I had a friend call me the other day and they were freaking out because they're like, I don't know where I put my keys. I'm running late. And they were just really fretting over the whole keys situation. And I go, did you stop to ask your spiritual guides and helpers and,
Exactly.
out there in the universe to just help you find your keys? And he was like, oh, I actually didn't even think about that. I was like, try it, see what happens. And literally, I get a text like 2 minutes later. He's like, got him. I was like, yeah, you're welcome.
It's foolproof, I would
It
say.
is. I
I've
think it's
probably done that
foolproof.
100 times. And
Yes, same.
anyone that's looking for something, just ask, pause and ask, and be willing to be guided. And then just go do something else, let it go for a few
Yeah.
minutes and then watch what happens.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
going to find your way. Yes.
Yes. And I've also learned that there's a desire that we will ask for or pray for. And sometimes the answer is no, and we're not always good at listening to the no right now or no, this is actually not so great. It's only in sometimes with time passing that we can look back and go, oh, my prayer was answered. And the no was actually the right answer for me at that time. I just didn't know it because maybe my ego was involved. Maybe I just had this, it was a trauma response on what I wanted or needed in that moment. And I also find those pieces to be, interesting walks of life to be able to reflect and go, okay, I gotta see this from all sides. And just
It
knowing
seems
what's
like later, when you do get a no, it seems that later in hindsight you realize why. It's
Mm,
almost like you're given more information so that you do
yeah.
understand. This wisdom that works with us, loves us, guides us, it doesn't want to leave us confused. And
Right.
so at some point in time, you're going to understand why it was a no. And you might even feel grateful that it was a no because you'll see
Yes.
the wisdom of it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Robin, again, thank you for being such a phenomenal guest. Thank you for all of your wisdom and your guidance. And I'm so grateful for our guides that are here today and that have just, brought us together. And that's just blessing all the people that are listening to this message today. It's super exciting. And thank you for taking the time. And for those of you listening, drop into the comment section, drop into the show notes. You're going to see all kinds of great ways that you can get in touch with Robin, whether it's through social media, through the website. Please get her free download. And with that, I'm going to just wrap with saying, Robin, one more thing. I know you make your own music. So, how did that even start? How did it happen? And is that something that everyone here that's listening can also have access to?
Sure, it's sound therapy, and I also teach that as a class.
Mm,
It's on my website at robinduncan.com. That's where the classes are. I have a store. It's called miraclecenterstore.com. So there's places where they can buy that sound therapy. I will be developing so much more of that in terms of getting it more accessible, more online. But there are several tracks available, and it is really, really helpful. And I help you to understand all the reasons why, but we are all almost like we are all 12 string guitars. And as we're talking, like as I'm talking to you right now, I'm talking in certain tones. That's vibrating me, that's vibrating you. But there's also tones I'm not speaking in, but they are still present within me. It's almost like a guitar where the strings are not being played. And so the sound therapy helps those other strings that you do not activate within yourself with your own voice, that activates those other strings. And all of a sudden, you start feeling more grounded, more balanced, more capable because you're activated all the way through. It's things you already have but are a little bit dormant. And that's why you can just sleep to it on
yeah.
very low volume and it helps,
Yeah, so good. There's a 563 hertz that I sleep to every night, and I love it. It
right?
really is it's like my body knows, my brain just goes, time for bed.
I'll have to send you one of my latest tracks. It's a
Ooh,
528 frequency and it goes through all 12 tones. And so you get a nice
ooh,
body tune up and it's
cool.
wonderful. I think you'll love it.
Oh, I love that. Yes, I'm all about a body tune up. That totally works. Amazing. Well, again, thank you, Robin. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for following, for listening, for sharing. I appreciate you all being here and being part of the community. With that, we're going to sign off and we will see you back next week.